What if you have human resources and a hiring manager telling you what they expect in the CV from your side? Well, that is precisely us. I'm Francisco Castellanos, hiring manager in the aerospace industry.
I'm Shefie E, and in this video I will share with you hiring strategies, some tips and tricks from perspective of human resources. To find a job is a journey, and the first step is to prepare a great resume. Step 1 is to create a straightforward and easy to read format. There are two types of resumes. Chronological resume, you have this current job on the top and other experiences below, like most of the CVs are. I recommend this most of the time actually. It is the best way to show your experiences. And the other type of resume is functional resume. It's a little bit different actually. You have your skills on the top and supportive experiences listed, the definitions of skills.
I have to admit I've never received any functional resume. All the resumes I had at the chronological ordered CVs, and it's totally fine. Actually, it's the CV that we all in human resources and technical hiring management we are used to receive. So having in mind what Shefie said at the beginning, like the CV has to be easy to read is key. So just sending something that is the format we expect is already helping in that aspect. So it is easy to read.
In this video, we will focus more on chronological CV. While preparing your CV, focus on how you can show who you are professionally. Let your experience speak itself. And then let's start. I recommend to use Times New Roman or Arial as a font. Your name should be on the top, biggest and bold. 16 or 18 font size is okay. And also all headlines should be in a bigger and bold font. And no graphics and no logos. It's not seen as a professional actually.
So basically we want you to have an easy CV to read, but if you ask me, you don't need to think about those things. You have many templates online that you could use. And I always recommend, because we're using Europe, but you can use this in any country, to use Europass. So if you search for Europass, you will be driven to the website. It is available in multiple languages and you can use it to create your CV, your cover letter, and many other things. So the Europass format, or the format we're going to comment here, is standard and is good for, I would say, 90% of the cases. But if you are working in a creative job, especially like digital design, and you want to change something on your CV, it's totally fine because you can already show your skills in the CV. But have in mind, even if you do that, has to be readable. Okay, so focus always, like you can add details, you can add things, but the CV has to be easy to be read by the people who's going to hire you. I would say don't add very creative CVs. That would be my recommendation. When I started to create CVs when I was just out of university, I wanted to do something creative. It never helped me, okay, because I was not thinking on the point of view of who's going to read it. I wanted to say, oh, they want to see something new and creative. It wasn't true. They just want to go through the information quick and fast.
Let's talk about the part of the CV. The upper part of your CV is very important. This part includes contact information and your objective. As contact information, you can add your phone number, email, and your address where you're located as a city. If you have LinkedIn account or a website, you can also share in this part. The objective is the next part, and it should be only maximum 2 or 3 sentences. It includes which skills and experiences you have, and it should be aligned with the job description you applied. You should review this part each time you applied for the position.
Just to recap about the contact information, are there any contact information that's relevant? so they can have additional information about you if they need it. So they can call you, they can send you an email, of course, but they can also investigate a little bit about your experience in LinkedIn, or if you have a website, for instance, it's a perfect place to put a link so the recruiters can really go and check. Then about the objective or summary, those 2-3 sentences should include the keywords for that position. And why this is important? Because sometimes the hiring managers or human resources, they receive dozens of CVs and they are going to scroll through them quite fast. So they are not going to read them fully. They are going to read the things that are in the upper part. That's why the upper part of the CV is the key one. So make sure in that sentences, in that objective, you include something tailored for that position.
The mandatory part of the CV is professional work experiences. Start from your last experience. Include the company name, your position, and dates. Use bullets for the definitions, what you did in this role. If you have more than 10 years experience, it's okay to have 2 or 3 pages CV. To use facts and figures, should not be very long sentences, but your contribution and success with short, concise sentences will be in a very efficient way to show what you did in your positions, in your experiences. If you're a recent graduate, you can also include internships and your summer jobs.
Yeah, so we are differentiated here 2 cases. I mean, if you have an average amount of experience, it's going to look fine. But if you have a lot of experience, your CV could be very long. And I was saying before, I don't want to have a very long CV. I want 2-3 pages maximum. 4 could be an exception. Try not to exceed it. So you need to make sure you put just what is important on the CV, what is the relevant experience. So you don't have to add everything. Just add the last experiences from the most current ones, and if you want to keep adding experiences, the ones that are less relevant and maybe long time ago, you can just put the position but not really go in detail on what are the responsibilities that you had in that position. For the most recent activities, I would expect you to put also some points. Don't put me 10 points per each of the positions. So you add me 3-4 points per position. And of course, if there is one professional experience you had that is very related to the current one, in that one you can explain a little bit more. Now, if you're a young graduate and you don't have experience, as Shefie was saying, add whatever experience you may have on summer jobs or any kind of job. You may be working at the same time you were studying, or you were doing voluntary work. All that could really make us understand that you're willing to start a job, and then you are valuable for us for your attitude. So definitely any work you have, even if it's not fully correlated, but at least you had some committed time to that job, add it. Of course, if there was a job like it was just a few days, you didn't like it, you changed several times, please don't put that experience because it would not make a good impact.
After your professional experience, education part, you can add your educations. And start with your highest educational degree, name of your college, university, and dates. If you still continue to your university, just add the expected graduation date. And if you have some achievements or honor degree at university, you can also add those.
Should you add your grades from university or not? Well, it depends. And of course, if you have bad grades, I would say don't add them. But also having good grades, it doesn't mean it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It depends who is going to read this. So, for instance, I have colleagues who told me, oh, this candidate don't have really good degrees for that university because I studied there and he's not a good student. So some managers may really check your grades. I honestly don't really care that much because many things could happen during your studies. You may have parallel work or I don't know what was your family situation, and maybe you didn't have the time or the focus on those skills, but I'm more interested on the experience you have, if you have professional experience, and your attitude and skills. So that's why I will make you an interview if I see that is worthy. Of course, if you are proud about your grades, it's fine, you can add them. Again, that could be a good and a bad thing. Maybe another manager say, oh, this guy is too proud, is cocky, I don't like this kind of attitude. You never know how they are going to interview, but as a baseline, if you are proud of something, I would say add it. I like to differentiate between education and trainings. For me, trainings are shorter duration and less relevant in general, but it could be related to the position you are going to apply. So in the education field, if you have any relevant training and is not very short, so it's relevant as well in the duration and the content you were learning. So for instance, you were doing a certificate for project management. It may be not an official like MBA in some university, but it still is an important training and certificate related to the position. I would move that into the top, if it's newer, chronologically speaking as well, on the education part, because we are going to pay attention to what you studied, but especially if it's related to the position. If you are someone with a lot of experience and your career started like 20 years ago, maybe your studies are not that relevant, but you may have this training that you did later that is relevant and is important, so put it there. In other trainings, you can add information that is less relevant. Again, if you have a lot of trainings, add the ones that really are more specific to this position.
To the skill parts, you could put in the section your computer knowledge, technical and soft skills that are specifically relevant to the position. You can use the job description listing as a guide for what the most appropriate skills to include to this part. Why those keywords are very important? Because of the Applicant Tracking Systems, we called ATS. Maybe ATS is the first reader of your CV, and those are the CVs who find best candidate fit with the position and eliminate wrong fit candidates, and based on keywords. The system scans the CV and the keywords for sure, because of the writing close to job description is key.
So
if you mentioned this,
the system is getting keywords from the open position.
Yes.
And
yes, right.
also additional keywords are already in the system.
Yes, right.
So it's a combination.
Yes, right.
So that is why it's important to use the keywords on the job description that you are applying to, and it's also good to know the values of the company and the keywords that could be related to generic topics of the company. And could you give us some examples of what those keywords could be?
Yes, for example, from HR perspective, I can share some companies are using talent acquisition instead of hiring or recruitment. If you don't have, if they're looking for talent acquisition specialist, and if you don't have in your CV any kind of talent acquisition in your work experience or in your objective part, then immediately the system, you are not coming in front of the recruiter actually.
So I would assume, but I didn't have visibility to this part because I'm not working in human resources, but I would assume words like or related with working in teams environment, international environment, if you are working in an international company, are keywords that should be added.
Yes, and also technical words, by the way.
So far, we have talked about what your CV must include. So of course, your name, it was then the contact information with a summary 2-3 sentences that are key with the keywords, your professional experience, your education, and then some training if you have some minor trainings. And now there is some information, the skills, don't forget about those. And then you have some information that you could add on top, but it's not mandatory. And that could be, for instance, languages. It could be mandatory if you are applying for an international company, or if you are not really a native from that country. But if you are, for instance, as I am from Spain, and you're applying for the Spanish administration, they are going to assume you speak Spanish and you don't list like you speak other languages because it's not needed for that job. But as I said, for some jobs it could be a must. Then there are other topics that may not be a must, and that could be voluntary work and hobbies. Voluntary work, I would say, is always good to add it. I don't see a reason why you should not add it. It could be a very, I would say, unlikely case, like you are doing voluntary work for a cause that the company is totally opposite to. But that could be just a reason for you maybe not to work in that company, so it's fine. And with respect hobbies, is a little bit of the same. I was thinking always as a manager, hobbies are useless to be added on the CV. It's like, I'm not really that interested on the hobbies, because yes, for some people I'm going to feel more connected, for this less, so it's adding some bias to me that I don't like to. But then when I was discussing with Shefie a little bit more, it's like, it is true, there are some good things about adding the hobbies on the CV, and that could be, for instance, you open a door for having a small talk at the beginning of the interview. So if you are going to the interview, the people from human resources or the hiring manager may ask you about your hobbies and make you to feel more confident and more relaxed at the beginning of the interview. Also, it is good you add your hobbies that are related to this. Imagine you like fishing and you're applying for a vegan company that produces vegan food. Maybe it's not fully aligned, and maybe it would be not a good case to add the hobbies. But that is a weird exception, I would say. In general, add the hobbies is not harm, and it will help you if you are called for the interview.
To upgrade your CV, you can add also achievements part to your CV, and also awards, and you can also include if you have publications, for example. The most important part is actually, and one part also certifications you have, but the most important thing here while adding, just focus if it is relevant with the position, and also be sure that anything you add to your CV can come to you as a question. So be sure about your knowledge is updated about all those achievements and publications you put to your CV.
So for instance, you may have achievements many years ago, certifications, you may study project management like 10 years ago and now you don't remember. Maybe it's not a good idea to add it unless you refresh your knowledge. Just to conclude, I would say have always in mind the point of view of who is going to read your CV. So make it readable. Think if really adding creative stuff to the CV is needed or not. In most of the cases may not, but in your case may be. For the information you need to add, you don't need to prove you did many things. You need to prove you did the relevant things. So add only the specific points that are needed and try to make it concise. Put always the relevant information as much on the top on the CV, because the reader may be busy and may be reading only part of it. And the less relevant information, put it at the bottom of the CV. We hope that CV is successful and then you are called for an interview. For that, we have other episodes. You can learn on how to prepare for the interview and how to conduct the interview. And also, we will have an episode about how to create a cover letter. Ciao!
Ciao!